Hello, and welcome. Sometimes, in the theater of professional wrestling, a moment happens that stops being a performance. It becomes real, too real. It transcends the script, the rivalries, and the athleticism, and it taps directly into the raw, uncut emotions of thousands of people at once. We thought we were getting one of those moments. We thought we were about to witness the triumphant return of a fallen champion. The building was electric. The noise was a physical thing, a wave of human joy washing over the arena. This was supposed to be a celebration. This was the comeback we had all been waiting for. But we were wrong. This wasn't just a return, it was payback. After everything she's been through, she was back. But not for the fans, not for the glory. She was back for revenge. And the WWE Universe, in that one singular moment, simply could not handle it. The crowd's reaction says it all. But what happens after the reaction? What happens when the internet breaks, and the pieces have to be put back together? This is the story of that moment. The story of the silence that followed the scream. It started with the sound. That familiar, guttural guitar riff that signaled the return of Mommy. Rhea Ripley was back. The roar from the crowd wasn't just loud, it was desperate. They had missed their champion. They had felt the void she left when she was brutally injured and forced to vacate her title. This was the healing. This was the payoff. She walked out, soaking in the adoration, a conqueror returning to her kingdom. The story was simple. The hero was home. And then, the music cut. A new theme hit. Liv Morgan, the architect of Rhea's pain. The crowd's cheers twisted into a confused, angry buzz. Liv walked to the ring not with menace, but with a smile. A soft, almost gentle smile. She circled Rhea. The tension was so thick you could taste the static in the air. Then, she opened her arms. She offered an embrace. The crowd murmured. Was this an apology? A truce? Rhea, cautious but willing to accept the ovation, hugged her. And that's when it happened. Boom! Liv didn't just attack her. She dismantled her. It was methodical. It was personal. But the most horrifying part? The smile never left her face. The arena went from a deafening roar to a unified, horrified gasp. Thousands of voices sucked into a vacuum. This wasn't a wrestling move. This was an assassination. This wasn't just revenge. This was a message. And as Liv stood over Rhea's unmoving body, raising her arms, the only sound was the clicking of cameras and the scattered, terrified whispers of a world that had just seen a line crossed. Before the show even cut to a commercial break, it was happening. The internet broke. It wasn't just a ripple. It was a digital tsunami. The first wave was just pure, unfiltered shock. Phones held aloft in the arena captured that one horrifying frame. Liv Morgan, smiling, with her friend destroyed at her feet. That image became the new global currency of holy hell. Twitter, or X, wasn't just trending. It was seized. The conversation wasn't if it was real. It felt real. The lines were so blurred they had been erased entirely. The narrative split instantly. One half was pure, unadulterated rage. Fans who had waited months for Rhea's triumphant return felt personally betrayed. They felt robbed. They called for Liv to be fired, suspended, arrested. The vitriol was venomous. But the other half, that was the curious part. The other half was respect. A dark, twisted admiration. People who understood the long-term story. People who knew what Rhea had done to Liv months prior. They saw this not as a betrayal, in the traditional sense, but as the final, perfect move in a game of human chess. She told us she was on a revenge tour, they wrote. We just didn't believe her. Liv Morgan didn't just create a moment, she created a divide. She forced everyone to pick a side. In one night, she had sacrificed the love of the entire fan base for one single, solitary purpose, vengeance, and the world couldn't look away. To understand that smile, you have to go back. You have to go back to the fluorescent lights of an orthopedic surgeon's office. You have to understand what it feels like to be told that the one thing you live for, the one thing you've dedicated your entire life to, has been torn away from you. This whole nightmare didn't start with Liv's attack. It started with Rhea's. Months before, it was Rhea Ripley who put Liv Morgan on the shelf. It was Rhea who was the aggressor, the dominant force who saw Liv as just another obstacle to be removed from her path. But for Liv, it wasn't just an injury. It was an erasure. While Rhea's star ascended, holding the championship high, Liv was in a quiet, sterile room, learning how to lift her arm again. The silence of recovery is deafening. You watch the show you used to be the star of and you feel forgotten. You see the person who did this to you being celebrated, being called a leader, a dominant champion. And that's where the seed is planted. It's not just a desire to get back. It's not just a desire to win. It becomes an obsession. An obsession to not just take back what was yours, but to take away everything that they have. Liv's revenge tour wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was a promise. A promise made in a cold hospital room. A promise that she would one day return the favor, not just physically, but emotionally. While Rhea was the reigning champion, Liv was plotting. And when Rhea herself was finally taken out, ironically by Liv, the tour began in earnest. Liv didn't just want to take Rhea's spot. She wanted to haunt it. She began to adopt Rhea's mannerisms. She started wearing gear that was a twisted mockery of Rhea's iconic style. She would taunt Rhea's fallen Judgment Day stablemates, not just beating them, but reminding them with every move that their leader was gone because of her. This was psychological warfare of the highest order. She wasn't just a wrestler anymore. She was a ghost. She was the ghost of Mommy's past, present, and future. Every victory she had was hollow because it wasn't about the win. It was about sending another message to a woman sitting at home, healing. She was systematically dismantling the legacy Rhea had built. She was proving to the world, and more importantly to Rhea, that the empire she had built was made of glass. And Liv was holding the hammer. The Revenge Tour, as she called it, wasn't just about matches. It was about making Rhea watch, helplessly, as Liv Morgan sat on her throne, wore her crown, and won the championship that Rhea never even lost. By the time Rhea was cleared to return, there was nothing left for her to come back to. Liv had already taken it all. When an unscripted moment, or a moment that feels unscripted, happens live on air, the most telling reaction isn't from the crowd. It's from backstage. In the gorilla position, that cramped, high-stress area just behind the curtain, is where the show's producers, agents, and the highest-ranking officials watch. When Liv hugged Rhea, they were likely breathing a sigh of relief. Good, they'd think. A respectful start to the program. And when the attack happened, the headsets went silent. All the shouting, the cues, the counts, it just stops. For 5, maybe 10 seconds. It's the silence of pure, undiluted shock. The first reaction isn't anger. It's a scramble. Is Rhea okay? Is she really okay? Medical staff are dispatched before the thought is even complete. The second reaction, however, is business. You can almost see the gears turning in the minds of the executives. The horror on their faces slowly, almost imperceptibly, turning into something else. A cold, calculating understanding. This is drama. This is conflict. This is the kind of raw, unpredictable energy that sells out arenas. One producer might be furious, screaming about going off script. But the man at the top? He's not looking at the screen. He's looking at the social media analytics blowing up on his laptop. He's listening to the sound of the crowd. It's not a cheer. It's not a boo. It's a noise. A visceral human reaction. And that sound is money. The shockwave hits Gorilla first, but it floods the locker room almost instantly. Wrestlers, male and female, who were watching on monitors, suddenly stop their conversations. They stop taping their wrists. They just watch. And here, the division is even more stark. Rhea's allies, The remaining members of her faction are beyond furious. This isn't a story to them. This is an attack on their friend, their family. They are scrambling, not for the show, but for retaliation. They are vowing, in no uncertain terms, that Liv Morgan is a marked woman. The line has been crossed. But the rest of the locker room? It's complicated. There's a contingent of performers who are genuinely appalled. They see it as unprofessional, dangerous, and a selfish hijacking of someone else's big return moment. They see it as a breach of trust. But there is another group, a quieter group, the ones who have been fighting for a sliver of screen time, the ones who understand what it takes to get to the top. They don't see an attack. They see ambition. They see someone who was willing to do the one thing no one else would. She was willing to become the ultimate villain to secure the ultimate spotlight. They won't say it out loud, but as they watch Liv Morgan stand tall, bathed in a chorus of boos, they aren't thinking, "That was horrible." They're thinking, "Why didn't I think of that?" The next morning, the world doesn't move on. It doubles down. Liv Morgan is no longer just a name on a roster. She is a global headline. Every major sports media outlet, every wrestling podcast, every YouTube channel, they are all leading with the image, that smile. Commentators aren't just talking about the wrestling implications, they are psychoanalyzing her. A masterpiece of villainy. The most hated woman in sports. Did Liv Morgan go too far? She has become a cultural moment. She is the villain in everyone's story. People who don't even watch wrestling are talking about it. They're weighing in, debating the morality of her actions. She is now, officially, internet famous. But this is a different kind of fame. It's not the warm, adoring fame of a hero. It's the cold, sharp-edged fame of infamy. She is now the measuring stick for betrayal. She has successfully made herself the main character. But in doing so, she has also painted a target on her back so large that it covers the entire industry. Every interview she does is now hostile. Every post she makes is flooded with snakes and bile. She has the world's attention. But the world's attention is a heavy, heavy price to pay. And it's a price she must now pay every single day, all alone. We often forget. We see the characters. We see the drama, the lights, and the spectacle. We forget that behind the face paint, the leather, and the pyrotechnics, there are human beings. Human beings with families. Imagine for a moment being Rhea Ripley's mother or father. You've watched your daughter fight for her life to get back to this moment. You've seen her through the surgery, the painful rehab. You're watching her big return, your heart swelling with pride. And then you see that. You see her attacked, betrayed, and humiliated in front of millions. Your first call isn't to a promoter. It's to your daughter, your hands shaking, just to hear her voice and know she's okay. The line between performance and reality vanishes. The anger you feel is not for a character. It's for your child. Now, imagine being Liv Morgan's family. You're watching your daughter, your sister. You see her smile, that gentle smile you've known your whole life, and you watch her use it as a weapon. You hear the vitriol being spewed at her online. You read the death threats. You see the person you love being turned into a monster by the entire world. How do you reconcile that? How do you separate the her on the screen from the her who comes home for the holidays? For the families involved, this isn't a great segment. It's a nightmare. It's a terrifying, public-facing crisis where the people they love are at the very center of a storm of hatred. Weeks pass. Rhea Ripley is gone again. The attack was too much. The comeback was a false start, and now she is back in the shadows, recovering, healing, and one must assume, planning. In her absence, Liv Morgan has everything she ever wanted. She is the women's world champion. She is the undisputed focus of the entire show. Every segment, every monologue, every main event revolves around her. She has the spotlight, she has the gold, she has the power, she won. The revenge tour is, by all metrics, a success, but something is wrong. When she walks out, the boos are deafening. But it's not the fun kind of booing you give to a villain you love to hate. It's the cold, hard, we genuinely despise you kind of booing. It's the sound of rejection. When she's in the ring, holding her championship high, she smiles. But the smile doesn't reach her eyes anymore. The crowd doesn't chant her name. They chant, Mommy. They chant for Rhea. Liv stands in the center of the ring, surrounded by thousands of people, in the brightest spotlight imaginable. And she looks utterly, completely, and terrifyingly alone. She got the kingdom, but she is a queen with no subjects, a ruler with no one to rule. She holds the championship, but it's clear, looking at her face, the championship doesn't hold her. And this is where the story truly ends, not with a bang, but with a quiet, horrifying realization. We focus on the act of revenge. We focus on the attack, the headlines, the shock. We think the story is about what Liv did to Rhea. We are wrong. The entire story is about what Liv did to herself. Imagine her, late at night after the show. The arena is empty. The boos have faded. She's in the locker room, alone, looking at her reflection in a mirror. She's holding the championship belt. She won. She did it. Her tour is over. But she's still talking about Rhea. Every promo is about Rhea. The gear she wears is still a mockery of Rhea's. Her entire identity is still wrapped up in the woman she defeated. And that's the twist. That is the true, tragic payback. The revenge wasn't the attack. The revenge was the obsession. In her quest to destroy Rhea Ripley, she had to study her, mimic her, and think about her every single second of every single day. She had to become her. She tore down the original Liv Morgan, the person the fans once loved, and rebuilt herself in the image of her greatest enemy. She stands there, looking at the gold. She broke the internet. She got her revenge. But in the process, she became a ghost, trapped forever in the shadow of the one person she couldn't erase. The comeback. It was Liv's, but the payback was on her.